Welcome to Stitching with Cindy Botts. Today we're going to talk about a cute little tote bag. It's only approximately 7 inches, but it is cute. It's adorable, however you want to say that. And the same principles I'm going to talk to you about making this tiny tote bag are what you can use to make your larger tote bags. Now, the fun hack, the interesting thing about this is that I used a dog collar. I actually used 2 dog collars from the dollar store to make my straps. So, the dog collar that I chose is this one right here, and it has 14 inches worth of strapping on it. And it has this little metal piece that I do cut off when I make the little handles. And what I think is great is that you can then use those if you wanted to be part of your decorations for your handles. Awesome. You get this hardware, this plasticware, and that can add up in expenses and stuff. But again, this is a hack from the dollar store. And I bought these 2 leashes, not leashes. You could use leashes if you wanted a longer strap. But for this project, I mean, it's just this little mini baby tote here. I'll put my hand next to it so you can see how big it really is. It worked out perfect. So one of the things that I wanted to do was to have these little straps on it. Now, during this construction phase, I forgot about that part. In fact, it wasn't until I was showing my sister the bag, she pointed out that, that should be there. It's like, whoopsies, forgot them. So, that's one of the things when you're sewing and creating things, you can forget stuff, but you can always think of a way to make it work. So, to make it work, I just added a little piece of material to the end of the strapping because I didn't have that much strapping left from my dog collars. Now, if I had bought another dog collar, 3 instead of 2, I would have had plenty. But I would, in the future, I would tuck this strap into, I would tuck it inside the bag so that the end would be inside the bag when I put my lining in. So here's my lining. Again, I would just tack that handle up here so that the raw edges would be in the seam allowance when I turned it right side out. I wouldn't normally have this here. If you wanted that to be part of your design stitching, of course you definitely want to use matching thread, and you could put it on the outside. I thought it was going to take away from my little panel piece. And that's the other thing that I wanted to show you with this bag is that this is just one of those little leftover panel pieces that someone gave me from one of their projects. This could be a little leftover quilt block that you use. I think this would be really sweet for a young little girl. My niece is only my great niece is only 8 years old. I think she would love a bag like this. And the other thing I wanted to show you that's unique about this bag is that you take the other dog collar and you snap it into, now we're going to get some funky screenshots. Sorry about that. I'm thinking about getting a phone tripod that would hold my phone steady while I'm doing all this maneuvering so you don't get such a wobbly picture. And I do apologize for the wobbles. All right, but for now this is what we have. So there is your removable strap. Again, this collar is adjustable to 14 inches in length, which I thought for this project was perfect. All right, so the other reason I left this little piece of metal on here was sometimes I put a carabiner clip, I guess is what it's called, on my keys, and you can just clip that right on there and you'll have your keys with you when you're out and about walking. The other thing I thought this might be good for was for my doggy walk bag, for, you know, those plastic gloves and plastic bags in case the dog wants to do a little poopy business. And this might be the great bag that I use for that, with a adjustable shoulder strap. I could even make this a lot smaller, and this adjustable shoulder type strap could put it down to its closest smallest length, and maybe clip that through my belt. So, you know, there's another way to use this little bag. I could, if I wanted to, if I chose to use that permanently for that reason, I could always adjust this strap by cutting out a section and re-sewing it down here to the point where it attaches to the clip. Good morning, Turtle. I do not know how she realizes that I'm up here recording and sewing, but she does. Let's see if we can get her out of our way. Okay, Miss Turtle. Toodle toodle. Turtle-oo. Turtle-oo. Bye-bye. Okay. So this again was made from a little leftover panel that someone gave me. There were actually, I think 5 of them left over. So this is what I started with, was this little panel. And what I did was I cut 2-inch strips. Oh, that black has a lot of lint on it. I think that might have been sprayed with an adherence a glue spray for some other project. Again, this is out of my stash, out of things that are leftovers. Not enough to make a big project with. I'm sorry about that screenshot. I was paying attention to Turtle. So I did cut 2 of them, one for the front and one for the back. I added a black 2-inch strip onto the sides. So after the seam allowance is taken into account, a 1/4 inch on this side and a 1/4 inch on that side. My sides will be 1.5 inches. And at the bottom, I sewed that. So again, when I have it, the bottom sewn to the back and the front, it'll be the same width as the sides. So what I did was I just took 2 of those panels and sewed them into this configuration, so that when I fold them right sides together, I will sew that last seam there, and then this will give me that side. Okay, all right. So after I sewed the one sunflower to the black strip, I sewed the next sunflower to that same black strip, completing the one side, and then I sewed the other black strip to the side and sewed the bottom black strip on. Then you're just going to fold that over, and you're going to sew that last side seam. Then with a little bit of adjusting and folding back, you're going to just lay that right side of that other sunflower on there, and you're going to sew that bottom seam across. Then once you get the side part of it done, you're just going to do, when you get the bottom of the front or the back done, whichever you're working on there, then you're going to add the side piece of the bottom and sew across that, and that'll give you this boxy shape. Let's see, here we go. All right, that'll give you this boxy side shape inside. Okay, now to do the lining, what I did and the interfacing is I took my piece when it was the 2 sunflowers and the 2 sides and the bottom. While that was nice and flat, I laid that on my lining, and you could lay it on your interfacing too, and trace that out. Use the actual project as your pattern. All right, and then I just did that same process on the interfacing and the lining. Now I didn't actually add interfacing to mine because it is just a mock-up. but you would have your interfacing there. I also did not worry about having the seams on the side because I have used the whole piece as my project. Okay, so I don't have that second seam here, and I don't have the side seams in my lining. It's just that one side seam here, if you can see it, and the bottom seam. All right, when you use just the one piece for that, for the lining. All right, so go ahead and sew while it's flat the lining to the interfacing, and then it'll be ready for the next step. When you sew the side of your interfacing and lining, make sure you leave a nice wide hole to turn your project right side out. So once you have your little boxy bag here of interfacing and lining, and you have your boxy bag of your sunflower, you're going to put them right sides together, and you are just going to then have this top seam to sew. All right, and you're going to sew that down. Now, before we want to do that, though, we want to talk about the handle. So this is when I would put my little straps in. I would measure from one side to where I want the strap to be. I would pin it, and then I would measure from the other side that same distance so that they're nice and identical. And I would pin it, and I would sew it to either the lining or the sunflower outside piece, and then I would lay it on again on the project and make sure that my handles are lining up identical on both sides. Then you want to make sure that when you sew the interfacing to the lining, that the bulk of the handle is laying down. All right, let's see if I have something that can kind of illustrate that. I really ran out of pieces here. So if this was, let's just say that was your handle, you're going to want to make sure that it's laying down between the lining and the outside of your bag like that. All right, so you'd be stay stitching it up here, stay stitching it up here, then laying, using the right sides together, laying it over, and encapsulate and putting those raw edges right inside that seam so they're not shown. Okay, so that's how you're going to do that. So go ahead and figure out the spacing for your handles, and now you want to, before you sew that lining to this, you also have to consider your other strap. So don't forget your side strap. And what you're going to do is you are going to take one of your collars. Let's just unsnap this here so we can see what we're talking about. You're going to take one end, and you are going to cut the strapping, and you're just going to sew that strapping again right at the top of your outside fabric, on the inside of your outside fabric. Oh, that's confusing. All right, just like you did before, you're just going to take and you're going to sew that in, and you're going to want to make sure that you do a little back stitching and stuff on it, because you do not want it to ravel. And you want it to be secure, because this will be holding the weight. So using matching thread, I think it is a good idea to do another round of sewing. You know, do it right here at the scant quarter and go back and forth, and then maybe do it right at the quarter. So it'll be right at the edge of your seam. Now, if you're doing a 1/2 inch seam, that's great. That would give it a little bit more. But depending on how your panel is, you don't want to cut off too much of your design, so I understand that. But this is actually going to be going into your side fabric here. So depending on what you have there, I would go down a little bit, as you can see. I guess you can't see. If I start here and run my thumb down, oh, my nail doesn't look too hot there. If you run my finger down there, you can see it is sewn quite a ways down inside. All right. Okay. Maybe I sewed it on the other side. Anyways, just make sure your strap is good and secure is what my point is. Make sure it's good and secure on the corner, okay? And then you just do the same with the other side. I do think one of the things I did was I put some stitches just on the strap itself before I put it in there so it wouldn't ravel. But that's up to you. You know, just do some stay stitching on the strap itself and then put your strap in. Now make sure when you're laying it in that you're laying the hooky part down the right way. All right, because you're going to want this to come up like that when it's done. So you want to lay this right side to the right side of your outside fabric. All right. So let's just tuck this off the side. So this is how it would look. Okay, so here are your two mock-up straps. And then you'd have this on this end. And you would have this cut off. Remember, this is cut off. This is the cut off section that you're sewing down. Okay, and then you just do the same with the other part of the collar handle strap on this side. All right, and then this is what you'll get when you go ahead and sew that lining into lining and the outside right sides together at the top of your bag. Then using that hole, you are going to turn it right side out, and this is what you'll have. You'll have this part and just this part to hook your collar strap in. Then you're going to want to go ahead and top stitch this. Give it some nice firm strength here. Just go ahead and top stitch it right there along that edge. And I was able to, with a nice quilting strong needle, go right over that. My machine can do several layers of jean material at a time. You might even want to go to a jeans needle, something good and strong to go through that strapping. All right, and you can see, oh, there you can see my stay stitching right there. It's my stay stitching that I did first, so it didn't unravel. All right, so you just want to make sure that that's tucked down in. Yeah, you can see a little bit of it. Again, if it had matching thread, you would not see it. But yeah, you can see how I stitched that there, just so I didn't have the raveling. Okay. Then the next thing you need to consider is what kind of closure do you want for this size bag. I thought Velcro was plenty that I could use, and if I'm going to use it for that doggy bag, it's very nice. If I decide to, you know, give it to one of the little girls in our family, then it would be nice for them too. All right. Well, I do hope you like this little project and you try it. Again, these principles can be used on any size bag, for any leftover panel you might have or a panel that you bought. It's just a lot of great fun, and try that hack using that strapping from the dollar store, the leash and the collar. You might find it fun. And they do have other designs. They're not all just black. They have some really fun designs for their collars, colors, and things. All right, happy stitching. Please like and subscribe. You have a great day. Bye-bye now.